Hi everyone. The problem now that we are going to solve involves two tables. The first table is person info. This table has below columns person ID, which is the ID of the person name, which is the name of the person group ID, that is the group to which the person belongs. This is the first table. The second table is expenditure. So this table has below columns exp ID, which is the ID of the expenditure, exp date, that is the date of the expenditure, exp description, that is the item on which expenditure was done, exp amount, that is the amount that was used for the expenditure, exp person ID, that is the person who has done the expenditure. So now this is the second table. So these are the input details that we have. As part of the output, what we need to do is for each individual, we have to find out what is the total expenditure that was done from their end. So that is the first column that we are looking for. Second thing is what is the total group amount expenditure that was done. So for example, let's take this group number 6. So in group number 6, if we see, these are the people that are involved, and these are the total expenditures that are done from three individuals. So summing this together, the total group expenditure is 14,400. After that, we have to find out how much does each person should share among themselves. So how we are doing it? The total group amount is divided among the number of people who are present. So since there are 5 people present in this group ID 6, 14,400 divided by 6 will give us this 2,880. That is, each individual in the group owns this amount to be paid. Now we have to find out finally how much does each person has to pay or has to receive based on their expenditure. So since for example the user Priti has already done the expenditure of 2400, so out of the equal share of 2880, subtracting this amount we get 480. So now Priti is left to pay only 480. Similarly, talking about the other individuals, for example, Arun has not done any expenditure, so he has to pay his equal amount share, that is 2880. And the other individuals like who have done the expenditure, for example, Shivam has done total expenditure of 7,000, but the equal amount share is 2880, so he has done more expenditure, so he is to receive 4120 amount. So this is what the expectation is. We need to find out in that particular group how much is the total amount the expenditure was done, what is the equal amount share, how much has each individual already paid, and how much each individual ultimately has to pay or receive based on the expenditure done. So hope the input details are clear. So we will work on this problem and try to generate this output to find out what is the pending share and other details from each of the users in the particular group. So let's write the query and try to work on this problem. So what we will do is we will operate on the input table, that is person info. Let's give the alias as P for this, and we will do a left join. Now what we are intending to do is we want to find out what is the total expenditure done by each individual. So we will do a left join with the expenditure table. Let's give the alias as E, and like we see in the two table, so in the first table the person ID is present in this person ID column, and in the expenditure table the person ID is present in exp person ID. So we will use these two columns in these tables to join the tables. So from the person table, we will use person ID, person info table, we will use person ID, and from expenditure table, we will use exp person ID column. So this way we will join the two tables. So let us see the output, what we get from the two tables after the join operation. So we have executed the query, and this is the output that we have got. If we see the left side, these are the columns from the person table, person info table, and on the right columns, these are the columns coming from the expenditure, and we have joined based on the person ID. So for example, this is one entry which has joined based on the person ID. Now, what we are looking for is, like, there are some people who have done multiple expenditures. For example, Shivam. So Shivam has done multiple expenditures. He has done the expenditure of 5,000 on Barbeque Lunch. He has done expenditure of 2,000 on movie tickets. So what our intention here is, we want to find out what is the total expenditure done by each individual. Okay. So what we will do is, we will do a grouping here. So we will do the grouping based on the person ID column, person name, person group ID, and we are not concerned about these details for now. So we will just skip this and focus only on this column now. We will try to sum up this column. Okay. So on these columns, we have done the grouping. We have skipped these three columns, and we also don't need the last column as it is already present in the first column, that is person ID. The data is already present, so we don't need that column also. So we will only use now this column. So we will do grouping on first three columns, and we will do a summation on the expenditure amount to get the total expenditure done by each individual. Okay, so now what we will do is, we will keep all the columns. So let's name it. So we will use person ID, person name, and person group ID, and we will sum on the exp amount column, and this, let's call it as total expenditure. Okay, so let's run and see the output. And one more thing, let's do, let's order it by the person ID to visualize the data easily. And we can first order based on the group ID and then order by the person ID, so we can see the data related to each of the groups as well. So let's run this now. So this is the output that we have got. So as we see, for example, the group ID 5, we see that there are three individuals. First two have not done any expenditure, and the third person, Manav, has done expenditure of 15,000. Similarly, talking about the other groups, like the group ID 6, so here there are five people. Out of the five people, three people have done the expenditure, and these are the details of total expenditure, and two people have not done any expenditure. So hope it is clear till this point. So we have derived our first column, which is the total expenditure done by each individual. Okay, so having done this, what we will do is, let's take it as part of a CTE, and let's call it as expenditure CTE. Okay, so this data is ready with us. Now what we will do is, we will operate on this table, that CTE output that we have just created, that is expenditure CTE. What we will do is, we will derive now the total expenditure done in the group. So for example, let's take this group number 6. So in group number 6, we want to find out what was the total expenditure done. So how we can find that? We have to sum 2400 plus 7000 plus 5000. So if we sum everything, the total expenditure of each individual in the group, we will get the total expenditure in that group. Similarly, taking another example for group ID 19. So here, if we want to find out what was the total expenditure done in the group, we have to just sum the expenditure done by each individual, that is 1400 plus 3000. So that will give us the total expenditure that was done in the group. Okay, so now what we will do is, to find out that, we will use the sum function. Okay, and it will be a window function. So we will sum on this column, that is total expenditure. So we will sum on it, and then we will use a window. So what window we will define? So we are interested to find out the sum over the group ID. So kind of we are doing the grouping on the group ID. So we will do partition by. So partition by is kind of grouping. So we will do the partition on this group ID column, and this will give us the expenditure group amount. That is the amount of expenditure, total expenditure that was done in the group. So let's run and see the output. So we have got the output. So as we see, for each of the group, we have got a new column, that is expenditure group amount. And for every entry, it shows, like for example, in the group ID 5, what was the total expenditure done, which is the sum of all the expenditure done by the individuals in that group. So here there is only one person who has done the expenditure, so it shows as 15,500. Let's see other examples. For example, let's take the last group for easy understanding. So here there are two people who have done expenditure of 1400 and 3000 respectively. So summing this amount, it will come to 4400. So for every entry, now we are showing what is the total expenditure in that group. Okay, so that is what we have got now. Okay, so we have got individual expenditure, we have got the total expenditure in the group. So finally, we have to find out what is the equal amount that each individual has to pay. So like for example, in this group, the total amount is 4400, and there are two individuals. So the expected amount is 4400 divided by 2. It will be shared by two people. So it will come to 2200 per person. So that is what we are looking to find out. That is what is the equal amount of share that each individual has to pay in the group. Okay. So for that, what we will do is, now we have got the total amount. We will find out how many people are there. Okay, how many people are there, and then we can just divide this amount by that many people to get the amount that each individual has to pay. So for that, again, we will use the window function of count. Okay, and we will use the same grouping. So we have to do the partition by person group ID. Okay, so if you do this partition, we will get total number of people in the group. Okay, total number of people in the group we will get. So let's run and just see the output. What do we get? So as we see, for each of the entries, we now know how many people belong to the group. Okay, for each entry, we have that information. Now to find the equal amount of share, what simply we need to do? We need to divide the total group amount by the number of people in that group. So that will give us the equal amount of share that each individual has to pay. So for that, what we need to do is, as we discussed, we need to simply take this sum value and we need to divide it by the number of people who are there in that group. So this will give us the equal amount of share that each one has to pay. So equal amount share, we can call it as this column, and let's run and see the output. So we have got, for each individual, based on the group that they belong, how much is the part that ideally everyone has to pay. Okay, and how we have got it? We have got it by dividing the total group amount that was done divided by number of people that are there in the group. And that is the way we have got this equal amount share. Okay. So this means that in this group, everyone has to pay 5,000. But some people have already done the expenditure. That means they have to receive the amount, right? For example, Manav has already paid 15,000, but he had to pay only 5,000. So that means he have to receive 10,000. So that is what now we need to identify what is the amount that ultimately someone has to pay or receive. So how will we do that? So basically, we have to just do the subtraction between equal amount share minus total expenditure that they have done. So that is the way we will get the remaining amount. So what we will do is whatever data that we have just created, let's add it as part of the CTE, and let's call it as a share CTE. Okay, and we will operate on this table, that is operate on this CTE output, that is shared CTE, and we we will keep all the columns that are required from here. So we need person ID, we need person name, person group ID, then we need total expenditure, that is our derived column, we need expenditure group amount. Okay, so we don't need the total number of people, so for now let's remove that, and equal amount share. And the last column that now we will derive is how we will derive. We will do equal amount share minus the total expenditure done. Total expenditure is this column, so this will give us the pending share column. So this way we will get the what is the ultimate amount someone has to receive or provide to the group. So we have executed the query. Let's see the output. So if we see the output, we see some issue. Like for example, Mano paid 15,000 in the group, and but he had to pay only 5,000. So which means that he is now to receive 10,000. But then there are other individuals who have not done any contribution. So they have to pay 5,000, but the pending share is showing null. So how is that? Ideally, it should be 5,000 minus 0, and that should give us 5,000. So the issue here is occurring because we are doing the arithmetic with the null operator. So just to show this, so say we have this amount as 5. Just let's run this. We get 5. Now if we do 5 minus null and we try to see the data, ideally what we are expecting is we are expecting it to behave like 5 minus 0. So let's run and see this, and we are getting null. It's not behaving the way we wanted it to be. So what we can do is we can use the isNull function. What isNull does is it checks whether the first parameter is null or not. So if it is null, it will assign the value that is present in the second parameter. So let's make it 0. And now if we run this, we will get the behavior as we expect it to be. So this same logic we will be using. So it's like in other SQL formats we can use colis as well, or we can use something like NVL. So based on the SQL type that you're using, we can use the respective functions that are present there. So now what we will do is we will use this is null here, and if the total expenditure is null, let's set it to 0 while doing the arithmetic. And now let's run and see the output. So we have got the output. Now let's notice the behavior. So in the first group, Daksha and Suman, the equal amount share is 5,000. So Daksha and Suman have to pay 5,000 each. And since Manav has already paid 15,000 and the equal amount share is 5,000, he is to receive 10,000. Let's talk the other groups. Let's talk the last group first. So in the last group, there are two people who have done this contribution 1,400 and 3,000. So total group contribution is 1,400 plus 3,000, that is 4,400, which means that the equal share is 2,200. The total amount divided by 2 because there are two individuals. So it is 2,200. Now out of this 2,200 which each individual has to pay, uh, these people have already paid something, like 1,400 has already paid by Naina. So 2,200 minus 1,400 will be 800, which means Naina has to pay 800. And although the expected amount was 2200, Nitu has paid more, that is 3000. So Nitu is to receive 800, the pending amount 2200 minus 3000. So 800 is the amount that Nitu is to receive. So likewise we can see for this group as well. So the group ID 6, so there are total 5 people that are present, out of which the total amount is 14,400. And depending on like 14,400 divided by 5, there is this is the equal amount that each one has to pay, that is 2880. And depending on the expenditure that each person has done, we will do the subtraction of what amount that each individual has to ultimately pay or receive. So we have generated the required output. Okay, and let's see the query that we have written. So this is the query that we have written. Let's do a quick recap of what how we have achieved the solution. So first of all, what we did is we went to the person info table, and for each individual we have joined it with the expenditure table, and identified what is the total expenditure each individual has done. So we have done the grouping on these columns and identified the total expenditure by each person. Once we have that information, what we have done is we have summed on this column that we have just derived, and we have done grouping on the person group ID. So this way we will get the total expenditure summed up for all the individuals in that group, and we have got the expenditure group amount. We have identified how many people are present in that group by again grouping on the person group ID. That is, partition by person group ID is the window that we have used to count the number of people that are present in the group. After that, what we have done is we have used this total sum that was identified for each group and divide by, that is here, and divide by the number of people that are present. So if we do this, we will get the equal amount, that is how much amount each individual has to pay in that group. Finally, we are left with to find out the last column, that is pending share, that we have identified by subtracting the what was the amount that was expected minus what is the amount that each individual has already done the expenditure. And if they have not done the expenditure, we have used just is null to set that value to 0, so as to not cause any issue with the arithmetic operation. So hope you found this video useful. The create table and insert statement will be added in the description. Please go through it. If you have any alternate solution, please post it in the comments. If you found the video useful, please like the video. Please share the video with your friends or in your circle who may find it useful. If you have not yet subscribed the channel, please subscribe the channel, and please provide your feedback in the comments. Thank you.